South Korea projects an image of immense, hyper-modern wealth. It produces cutting-edge technology, sets global beauty standards, and exports some of the most lucrative pop culture on the planet. But this chart tells a different story. It shows South Korea's total economic output on the left and its total household debt on the right. That debt has surged to $1.34 trillion, a figure that completely eclipses the country's entire GDP. We can see the severity when we adjust this data to look at disposable income. While the average American household owes about 100% of their annual disposable income, the South Korean average sits at a staggering 200%. This crushing financial reality explains why global hits like Squid Game and Parasite resonate so deeply. These stories draw directly from the daily, suffocating financial anxiety shared by millions of ordinary citizens. Are millions of people simply living recklessly, or does a normal life here require taking on heavy debt from childhood until death? The cycle starts years before a citizen ever draws a salary, beginning with the Hagwon system. These are private, after-school academies, treated not as optional tutoring, but as a mandatory baseline to secure future career success. The system aggressively piles financial burdens onto citizens on behalf of their children, locking families into the red long before those students ever enter the workforce. When those students do become adults, they face a hyper-competitive status economy. South Koreans spend more per capita on luxury goods than nearly any other nation. High-end brands are viewed as essential tools for career advancement and social survival. These strict societal expectations apply directly to physical appearance as well. Cosmetic surgery and expensive skincare routines are treated as absolute necessities for professional success, driving the highest per capita plastic surgery rate in the world, largely financed by credit cards. The sheer exhaustion of maintaining this image has bled into mainstream art. Mega groups like BTS explicitly tackle the themes of generational burnout and intense financial pressure in their music, validating the anxiety felt by young adults. This pressure cooker has created a localized YOLO, or you only live once, culture. It acts as a fatalistic rebellion. If insurmountable debt is already baked into the system, many young adults choose to buy the expensive lifestyle now and worry about the financial collapse later. As these adults enter middle age, they hit the real estate market. Property prices in major cities like Seoul have skyrocketed, placing traditional homeownership out of reach and forcing citizens into a unique rental system known as jeonse. Looking at this flowchart of the jeonse mechanics, you can see there is no monthly rent. Instead, tenants secure a lease by handing over a massive upfront deposit, typically 60 to 90% of the property's total value, which the landlord then uses as interest-free capital. Because almost no one has that kind of cash on hand, renters take out massive bank loans just to afford the deposit. And if property values fall or the landlord defaults, the tenant is instantly trapped with hundreds of thousands of dollars in unrecoverable debt. Add in the volatility of the modern job market, and the situation worsens. Laid-off workers frequently attempt to open small businesses to survive, often relying on predatory lenders who aggressively target the desperate with interest rates up to 20%. Achieving a middle-class existence here means walking a tightrope. A single family must simultaneously juggle a massive housing loan, highly volatile business debts, and the ever-present costs of their children's private education. This demographic breakdown reveals the bleakest statistic of all. After decades of navigating this structural debt trap, over 40% of South Koreans aged 65 and older currently live in relative poverty. Because the national pension system is completely inadequate to cover basic living expenses, these older citizens cannot stop working. 37% of the elderly population remains in the workforce, compared to just 13% across other developed nations. Staying in the workforce is a matter of strict survival. Well into their 70s, many are forced into physically demanding, low-paid manual labor and janitorial work just to stay afloat. For millions of people, playing by the rules and paying the exorbitant costs of societal expectations does not buy a peaceful retirement. It secures a lifetime sentence of hard labor. The government recognizes the crisis. They have implemented top-down measures like stricter lending regulations, financial counseling services, and initiatives attempting to lower housing costs. But these policies act as a band-aid on a gaping wound. Regulating the lenders fails to address the root cultural and economic causes of why so much money is being borrowed in the first place. Being heavily in debt in South Korea is rarely a moral failure or the result of simple impulsivity. From education to housing to social belonging, borrowing money is a mandatory survival strategy built into the country's economic architecture. To escape this trillion-dollar trap, South Korea must dismantle the high-pressure expectations that originally built its modern economic miracle. If the underlying expectations remain unchanged, the exact same engine responsible for South Korea's historic growth will simply bury the citizens it was meant to enrich.